Yo, what's up? My name is Patrouski, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 Pokemon. I'm going to be talking about what I think are the top 5 most powerful hidden abilities released in PokeMMO. Now, this is going to be at the heart of it an opinion piece. However, I'm going to be attempting to use logic and reasoning and good argumentation to make these points. Hopefully, you guys agree with me here today, and if not, let me know why in the comments down below. Now, before we get into things, make sure to let me know if you enjoyed today's video afterwards by clicking the like button down below or disliking. That is also totally okay. And consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see daily PokeMMO uploads and pieces of content like this. I am going to be going from the least strongest up until the strongest. So from the 5th slot in the top 5 up until number 1. There is also going to be an honorable mention weaved in somewhere along the way. But enough stalling for content. Let's go ahead and get into the number 5 slot, which is going to end up being Salamence. Salamence gained access to Moxie ability, which boosts its attack by 1 stage after knocking out any Pokemon. This allows a Pokemon like Salamence to set up a Dragon Dance or 2 and just absolutely go out of control and snowball to an extent that it is pretty much impossible to get back under control, and it pretty much takes away with the game, whether it punches a hole through 4 of your Pokemon or just sweeps your entire team in its entirety. The reason why Salamence is only number 5 on this list is because he's currently sitting at a 5.8% usage rate in OU, and he's only at around a 43% win rate, which is pretty terrible considering all things, unfortunately. However, most of these games were actually still played with Intimidate and not Moxie. This is also important because there's 2 different valuable sets now on Salamence. Intimidate is still good, but Moxie is still really new. He just got access to it, so not many people are able to test it. That's a huge thing as well, is that since it's so unbelievably new, that's kind of knocks it down further on the list. It's totally possible this becomes a top 5 threat in OU over the next coming months, or it could end up falling back down to UU, which is where Salamence had actually fallen to. He had fallen to UU for a week or 2 before the Moxie ability was implemented. And funnily enough, having access to its hidden ability being a new thing is the same reason why we see our number 4 slot at the place that it is, and that's going to be Regenerator Amoonguss. For those who don't know, Regenerator is an ability that restores 33% of the user's HP upon switch out in battle. That's a ton of HP and can be a really big deal on a tanky or bulky Pokemon. Which Amoonguss is deceptively tanky. That 70 base defense, 80 base special defense isn't super impressive, but alongside the 114 base HP, it ends up really working. Alongside a pretty decent typing and access to Spore to be able to cripple your opponent if they can't kill you in 1 or 2 turns and put something to sleep is a very scary factor. A Spore pivot like Amoonguss being able to heal upon switch out is super powerful, and it shot him all the way from untiered all the way up to OU. At the time of recording, Amoonguss is currently sitting at a 6.91% usage rate in OU and at an extremely impressive, possibly scary 59% win rate, all with 98.8% of games being played with Regenerator, 50% with Rocky Helmet, 45% with Black Sludge, which is essentially leftovers for Poison type, and then most people go a defensive nature like Bold or Relaxed. It seems as though Amoonguss is pretty much solidified its place in the OU metagame. However, things still could change. People could learn to play against it. It could drop in usability pretty quickly, so that's why it's at number 4 on this list. But going from untiered to around 7% in OU, 59% win rate is unbelievably, unprecedentedly impressive. Alright, on to number 3 on this list is going to end up being Dragonite. Funnily enough, he got access to Multiscale. Multiscale is especially scary for a Pokemon like Dragonite because he has access to Roost. If you don't know, Multiscale is an ability that reduces damage by half when the Pokemon is full HP. Now, Stealth Rocks can mitigate this pretty well, which is pretty important. However, let's say Dragonite is your Stealth Rocks, Cleaver your Defogger. You can go ahead and bring in Dragonite, take the damage, tank a hit. If they're attacking with some sort of grass type attack like Superior, you're going to be able to 4 times resist it, switch it in, clear the rocks pretty safely, and then you're also going to be able to Roost either then or later on in the game, and you'll still get access to your Multiscale once again. Being able to re-proc your Multiscale, essentially gain access to that damage reduction over and over again by healing, is really scary, and it also ends up snowballing and allowing you to also Roost back up to full, right? So if you were to take, let's say 51%, but you're able to roost, and they were able to do less damage because of it. Like they end up being able to take you down out of that multi-scale roost combo range effectively, and becomes very, very problematic. Now, it can be really slow, and thankfully, Dragonite does have a 4x weakness to Ice, which does keep a lot of this in check. If he didn't, he'd probably just run away with things. However, being able to set up Dragon Dance with this roosting multi-scaling combo is really, really scary. How do you stop something from setting up, healing, and taking less damage, and then setting up, and then healing, and taking less damage, and getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and faster and faster? Now, Dragonite is only at number 3 on this list because he was already a pretty solid OU threat, probably sitting around anywhere between 8 to 15% usage in OU before the multi-scale buff, but now he does sit at around a solid 25%, top 5 played Pokemon in the metagame, 25% with an almost 53.5% win rate. Super, super impressive, especially for a Pokemon being played this much. Alright, now moving on to number 2 on this list. In my opinion, this is the second most powerful hidden ability added to PokeMMO thus far, and that is Magic Bounce Espeon. Magic Bounce Espeon was the first Pokemon to gain access to Magic Bounce in all of PokeMMO. And if you don't know, Magic Bounce is essentially a meta-shifting ability. Magic Bounce says that it reflects status-changing moves, which doesn't sound that powerful all at first. However, the most powerful part about Magic Bounce is that it reflects stealth rocks and spikes and such things like that. So if you are able to read your opponent properly, let's say they clearly switch into something like a Ferrothorn, they're gonna set up stealth rocks, it's what they do. You're able to then predict that stealth rocks, switch in your Espeon, the Magic Bounce will touch, the stealth rocks will hit the Magic Bounce, and they'll be bounced back onto your opponent's side of the field. So not only do you prevent your side of the field with being cluttered with rocks, you actually set them on your opponent's side of the field, and you can now set rocks without even having a stealth rock setter on your team in OU. That is a massively, massively big deal. Now, the downside to this being is that it's an extremely skill-based move. Let's say that you thought your opponent's Ferrothorn was going to go ahead and go for the Stealth Rocks, and they actually read the switch, and they go ahead and go for Gyro Ball instead. They're going to get off big damage against your Espeon. It's going to be a little scary. Now, it is important to understand that Magic Bounce doesn't straight up remove the rocks from your side of the field and place them on your opponents. It only happens if they try to Stealth Rock in the face of Espeon. So you can obviously switch into it, but let's say Stealth Rock were already on your side of the field and you switched in your Magic Bounce Espeon, it wouldn't do anything. You would just take rocks damage and it would act as normal. You can't get rocks off of the field if they're already on the field with Magic Bounce. So it's a very tricky but very powerful ability. Probably, one of the most powerful. I put number 2 on this list for a reason. I think it really does shift the metagame. It shifts the way people think. If you see an Espeon on your opponent's team, you have to think about it at all times. If you're the Espeon player, you have to think about every single Pokemon that could set Stealth Rocks on your opponent's side of the field and imagine what time they plan to do it and what is most optimal for them. It very much becomes a mind game, and it very much becomes very skill-based and a very interesting shift in the meta. Espeon went from being a solid NU Pokemon at the time I had my own Choice Scarf Espeon that I was very fond of, to becoming an OU staple to some extent. Now, you only see it at a 6.15% usage rate, which is understandable. However, I think Espeon, just having that ability itself, impacted the metagame much more than this number would imply. Just Magic Bounce existing at all in the metagame is a very scary thing and something that you have to think about when building your teams now. I think it's definitely something that shifted things. No matter as long as Espeon's in OU, you're going to have to think about it. You're going to have it on your mind and build around it. And that 53.2% win rate is nothing to scoff at. That is super, super solid. This list may make it seem normal to switch tiers so drastically, going up 2 tiers from NU to OU, but it happens very, very infrequently. That's just how powerful all of these hidden abilities were. Now, we do actually have one last Pokemon to talk about, the most powerful in my opinion. You probably already know Contrary Serperior. Contrary Serperior was tested for being banned for a little bit. It took a lot of people to get used to. It took a lot of people to understand how to play against it. Contrary Serperior was thought to be absolutely broken at first. Now that people have learned to play against it, it's definitely dropped in usage and in win percent. It's definitely a very skill-based Pokemon, but it can snowball and get out of hand very very easily. Now, Superior went from being a top 10, maybe top 15 NU Pokemon, a very solid NU Pokemon similar to Espeon, to being, I want to say at its peak, maybe 15 to 20% usage in OU at the time. Currently it's sitting around an 8% usage, and it's right below a 50% win rate, which is fine. But it's important to understand that with Superior, it is probably the most expensive competitive Pokemon to get in the game at the moment. Getting a 5x31 timid contrary Superior will end up costing you around 2 million Pokeyen at the moment, because not only do you have to breed the 5x31 timid Superior, you then have to go ahead and buy the grass ability patch, which at the moment is going to cost you around 1, maybe 1.1, maybe 1.2 million Pokeyen at the cheapest. And if you don't know, I guess I should explain it really quickly. Essentially, what's so powerful about Contrary Superior is that he is able to spam the move Leaf Storm. If you don't know, Leaf Storm is essentially a move that I believe has 130 base power. Let's go ahead and see if we can bring it up really quick. 130 base power, grass type move, so it does have stab. Here we go. 130 base power with 90% accuracy, special grass type move. But the downside is that the attacks does lower the user's special attack by 2 stages. However, with Contrary, it ends up raising the user's special attack stat by 2 stages. So you have this naturally pretty bulky Pokemon, surprisingly bulky, 95 defense to 75 HP, Superior with really good speed, and the only really lacking thing on it, its special attack, now continuously snowballing and boosting its special attack by 2, getting a nasty plot for free, while also throwing off a 130 base stab grass move. It seems insane on paper. On paper, Superior is probably one of the most broken Pokemon ever. However, there is a lot of 4x grass resistant Pokemon like Amoonguss, for example. So you do end up encountering these things, or like Dragonite, or like Salamence. So there's a lot of things that actually do end up countering this, surprisingly. Contrary Superior is still very powerful, and it shot up once again from a top tier NU threat to a top tier OU threat overnight, even though it was super difficult and super expensive to get. So definitely watch out for those, and maybe one day you'll be able to get yourself a Superior. One last honorable mention that I thought was worth mentioning kind of quickly ends up being a Pokemon that you might not expect. It's actually Weezing. Reactive Gas Weezing. Now, the only reason why this isn't actually on the list is because Reactive Gas isn't technically a hidden ability. It was just Weezing's second ability that was added to it. It says so in the Pokedex. If we actually head over to that really quick, it just has abilities, not hidden ability like it would for a different type of Pokemon or for a hidden ability Pokemon. It just has Reactive Gas. Now, Reactive Gas took Weezing from an untiered Pokemon that I believed was underrated in NU at the time. Weezing was a pretty good wall. It took him from an untiered Pokemon all the way up into an OU staple, once again at a 9.3% usage rate, 54, almost 55% win rate. If this was actually Weezing's hidden ability, he might be #1 on this list. Very powerful Pokemon. Reactive Gas is an ability that suppresses all other Pokemon abilities, which doesn't sound that powerful off the get-go, but when you think about it, this counters things like Rain Teams because it gets rid of their Swift Swim. It counters Pelipper, getting rid of his Drizzle. It ends up countering a lot more than you would realize. It counters Guts Pokemon, which is a really big deal. So things like Conkeldurr end up being able to do no damage to Weezing because of that. It's such a good defensive wall in that situation. It stops things like Darmanitan's Sheer Force. Abilities are such a powerful thing in Pokemon, and you really start to realize it once you're facing down and staring down a Weezing. Alright, but that's the list. What do you guys think of my picks? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO uploads and video and pieces of content like this. I also stream Monday through Thursday here on YouTube and on Twitch. If you're interested in that, links are down below. My Discord is also linked down below if you're looking for a community to play this wonderful game with. And then if you want to go above and beyond and support my channel and allow me to keep making content like this every single day, PayPal, Venmo, YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch donations, all that stuff is what keeps me in business, allows me to do what I do. So thank you all so much for any support. If your name is on the list at the end of this video, you're one of those people who goes above and beyond and allows me to do what I do, and I can't thank you enough. Wouldn't be here without you. Even if you're watching, same thing. I love you all so much. Have a great day. I will see you later. Have fun on PokeMMO. Peace.
Yo, if you're watching this, that means you watched the entire video. So first things first, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And if your name is on this list, that means you go above and beyond and support the channel and allow me to do what I do every single day. Thank you so much and have a great day.